As a freckle-faced kid growing up on a dairy farm in Killarney, John McGrath had no idea that his life story would take him from selling tyres to state politics to transforming the national conversation around mental health. Like many young boys of his generation, John left school at the end of Year 9 to help on the farm. His father, Jack, was unwell, and John, as the only son, was a much-needed extra pair of hands. John remembers the principal of CBC, Brother Boylan, taking the time to personally visit his parents to try and find a way he could continue at school, but it was not possible. Jack McGrath later passed away while John was still in his teens. Taking on responsibilities at an early age gave John a resilience to adapt to life and its many challenges, the greatest of which was yet to come. After leaving the family farm, John worked in a variety of jobs, first as a factory hand, then a truck driver, a station manager, a credit manager, and a sales manager, before starting his own, very successful business in 1972. A tyre business on Raglan Parade, which he sold in 1986, but which still operates today. It was his experiences as a small business owner which prompted John to make a run at state politics, to better represent the little guy. It was thought that he had little hope in what was a solid Liberal seat. He ran in 1983 as a National Party candidate and lost on preferences. A second run in 1985 resulted in a shock victory for John. Such was his popularity, John was elected again in 1988, 1992, and again in 1996, before he retired, unbeaten in 1999. As an MP, John was the national spokesman for housing, then transport and labour, and also the party whip. He was appointed Deputy Speaker in 1992 and was a chairman of the committees until his retirement from politics in 1999. During this period, John also faced his greatest personal challenge. One of his 5 children, Shane, suffered from a mental health issue at a time when mental health illness was a source of shame and rarely talked about in the community. Shane had battled depression and schizophrenia for 10 years, but despite the best efforts of his family and a GP to find effective treatment, there was little ongoing support. Shane took his own life in 1993. John remembers taking a phone call from the then Victorian Premier, Joan Kirner, who said, "Nothing prepares you for the loss of one of your own children." Those words stayed with him, and John resolved to do whatever he could to advocate for people and their families who were also battling mental health issues. Using his political contacts, he put together the first national advocacy group, Mental Health Australia, and was its first chairman. In 2000, John was then recruited to be the founding director and deputy chair of Beyond Blue, together with former Premier Jeff Kennett and former Labor MP Carolyn Hogg. As John says, by removing the stigma of mental health, Beyond Blue has changed the world.
Since Beyond Blue's come on board, there's been an enormous change in the way people view depression and anxiety and mental illness generally in the community. An enormous change, to the point where people no longer cringe. People no longer want to sweep it under the carpet. People want to talk about it. And people say to you, that badge in your coat, isn't that Beyond Blue? My brother got help through Beyond Blue, or my auntie got help through Beyond Blue. This is over a counter in a shop. Would never have happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So we are progressing. And there are several reasons we could go into for that, but by and large, Beyond Blue has normalised discussion about depression and anxiety, and as a consequence, mental illness generally, so that people feel comfortable. That's an enormous advancement, And what that does, of course, is it provides a segue for people who experience these conditions to actually not feel threatened, but in fact feel like, I think I'll reach out for help. And that is just so important.
While John's son, Shane, died never having received the services he should have, his eldest son, Darren, lives with a mental health condition but with the services that are now available, he is, says John, a fully functioning, tax-paying member of the community. John went on to become a board member of Headspace and the inaugural chair of the Mental Health Professional Network, and remained an ambassador for Beyond Blue. By 2008, John's work in key roles with organisations such as Beyond Blue, Headspace, Crisis Support Services, and the Mental Health Professionals Network, to name just a few, was recognised with a member of the Order of Australia. It's an extraordinary legacy, and one that John accepts with humility, starting out as a little skinny, freckle-nosed boy running around the paddocks of Killarney. His message to students who are about to launch into the world is equally as grounded. Do your best and just be kind to each other. If you do your best, then you'll be at your best.
John's induction tonight will be accepted by his daughters, Joanne McGrath and Karen Mead.
Deep breath. It's an absolute honour for Karen and I to be here tonight. Dad's wife Lynn and brother Darren and sister Sherry are unable to be with us in person, but are very much here with us in spirit.
As we accept this amazing award on behalf of our beautiful dad, you hold that, who is dearly missed and so fondly remembered, we were always proud of Dad and the achievements and contributions he made in his 81 years on this earth. From humble beginnings on the farm, he found himself travelling around Australia and the world, spreading awareness of mental health and at the same time giving consumers, their families and carers a voice that so desperately needed to be heard. Dad's involvement within the community was always a high priority, and eventually that led to him being elected as the local member in State Parliament. During this time, our family was tipped on its head when our brother Shane became unwell. Previously a pretty decent student, his grades declined and he became withdrawn. Eventually he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. We knew nothing about the illness aside from the terrifying misrepresentation portrayed in movies and also the media. As a family desperately seeking support, we attended an information evening at Briley. This night was a shocking awakening to our family, and that was the moment that Dad decided to get more involved, because what they told us that night was nearly to the point of hopelessness. The more he got involved, the more that he could see what needed to be done. He knew that shaking the tree from Warrnambool was not going to work. He needed a bigger stage, and if he was going to succeed. Dad still remained frustrated that Shane never received the services he needed or deserved, and that fired him up. And it fired him up indeed. His involvement in the development as a co-founding member and director of Beyond Blue, Headspace, the Mental Health Professionals Network, just to name a few, is solid proof of that. Our dad made a difference. After Dad died, we received countless messages from people that he had helped over the years. Their lives had been altered by his input. He changed people's lives, and some of those lives were indeed saved as a result. Some of them we just knew nothing about. This makes us even more proud of the beautiful, kind, generous, wise and respectful man he was. He is truly deserving of this award, and in his words, he was chuffed to be inducted into the Emmanuel Alumni. In 2008, Dad received an Order of Australia medal, and I think that this would be fitting to use his words when he accepted the Queen's Honours nomination. As a local Member of Parliament, I experienced firsthand the enormous contribution made in various communities by so many people working in a voluntary capacity toward making this country what it is today. So I'm aware of the huge honour that has been bestowed upon me, and I feel privileged and humbled. My award would not have been possible without the continuous unwavering love and support of my wife Lynn and also of my family. I recognise that no man is an island, and without the help and friendship of many people, my work would be diminished significantly. I share this with them, and we shall continue. There is still so much to be achieved in seeking better outcomes in the field of mental health. Dad was determined to get the conversation around mental health started, and he can rest easy knowing that we will ensure that the important conversations continue. Thank you again for this award, and in the words of John Francis McGrath, how good is this?
Thank you.